Your refrigerator is a humming illusion of control. You stack beautifully packaged biological waste into this white coffin and pray to the expiration date invented by marketers and lawyers. The holy belief that mineral salt, which lay in the bowels of the earth for 200 million years, will suddenly meet its end. Next Tuesday is a sign of brilliant consumer training. While the infantile world trembles over eco-milk that's soured in a day, real food exists according to the laws of ruthless chemistry. Where there is no moisture, there is no rot. Bacteria literally die of dehydration in ancient Egyptian honey and burn alive in acetic acid. Genuine food security is not a courier at your door. It is total dietary mummification. Today we are dissecting 33 products with an absolutely eternal shelf life. Severe provisions that will easily outlive both you and this fragile plastic paradise. The lights are off. We are going down into the cellar. Product 1. Your sweet morning dessert is a direct message from the world of the dead. Think this sounds like a plot for a cheap mystical thriller? In reality, it is boring archaeological routine. Scientists regularly open ancient Egyptian tombs and find sealed jars with thick nectar that is over 3,000 years old. Yes, it crystallized long ago and resembles a piece of yellow asphalt, but once heated, it becomes an absolutely safe treat. The whole secret lies in the brilliant cruelty of bee chemistry. This substance has a catastrophically low moisture content and extreme acidity. When a naive microbe lands on this golden surface, its cells literally explode from dehydration. It is like a scene from an Indiana Jones movie where the villain drinks from the false grail and instantly turns into a dried mummy. We build complex cooling chains for our delicacies, while little buzzing creatures use the laws of physics as the most perfect weapon of mass destruction. Winnie the Pooh turned out to be much smarter than any certified nutritionist. Product 2. The date on these white crystals is the greatest legal absurdity of our time. Seriously, look at the packaging in your cupboard. A shelf life of a couple of years is carefully stamped right there. This seasoning lay in the dark, cold depths of the planet for 250 million years, waiting for some enterprising human to shove it into a cardboard box. And now they boldly declare that it will spoil next Tuesday. This is a common mineral, the pure geometry of nature. Physically, chemically, and biologically, it is incapable of going rotten, getting moldy, or growing tired of its existence. Demanding freshness from it is like asking a cobblestone on the side of the road to become softer by the weekend. Bureaucrats force these numbers to be printed simply because stupid paper regulations require it. Your grocery receipt pays for the ink on the label, not real safety. Imagine if a mountain range was fined for being too old for this planet. Oceans dried up, dinosaurs turned into oil, and this white dust just bided its time to end up on your morning fried eggs. Bureaucracy can make even geological formations laugh. Product 3. The Snow White side dish is immortal, but its trendy, healthy brother is a ticking time bomb. Fitness gurus have been brainwashing us for years, forcing us to choke down the tough brown analog for the sake of mythical health. Sounds logical, does it not? Now let us come back down to earth. This highly praised unrefined product contains oils in its bran shell that begin to ruthlessly go rancid after just 6 months. The smell of old socks in the pantry is guaranteed. At the same time, the polished carbohydrate core, stripped of all this trendy organic matter, remains edible in a tightly closed container for many decades. We intentionally choose a commodity that rots faster because we believed glossy magazines. It is like choosing a fancy sports car whose engine explodes after the first 1,000 miles, while an old grandfatherly tractor calmly plows the field for centuries. The shell is just food for oxygen, which devours your supplies with unprecedented greed. So in the event of a zombie apocalypse, healthy eating enthusiasts will leave the chat first. Leave the healthy fermentation to glamorous bloggers. Product 4. Ship biscuits can be used as the foundation for a skyscraper. You probably think your grandmother's cookies were tough? Fasten your seatbelts. American museums still carefully keep hardtack under glass, baked for soldiers during the Civil War in the 1860s. This dismal mixture of cheap flour and water was baked in ovens to the state of absolutely monolithic concrete. If you take this historical artifact today and soak it in a hot, rich broth, you can safely have dinner without the slightest harm to your stomach. This is not food. It is a bulletproof vest for the esophagus. Modern baking gets covered with furry green life in 3 days because it is stuffed with moisture and sugar. But these dry squares ignore the very concept of time. Imagine Captain America frozen in ice for half a century, only instead of a pumped-up hero, we have a piece of unleavened dough. Soldiers broke their teeth on them, and now we look at them as the greatest culinary miracle. Good luck trying to chew this brick without a bucket of water. Product 5. Native Americans invented an energy bar that humiliates modern technology. We are sold protein snacks in shiny wrappers for crazy amounts of money, assured that this is the peak of athletic innovation. Sounds cool? Not quite. The indigenous peoples of America took meat dried into fine dust, poured tons of melted animal fat over it, and tossed in a handful of sour berries. The result was pemmican, the ultimate energy bomb that requires no refrigerator, no vacuum, and no preservatives. This fatty mass does not spoil for 50 years. Later, this exact recipe was stolen by rugged polar explorers to survive in the icy hell of the Arctic. While modern city dwellers panic if their smoothie sits in the sun for an extra 15 minutes, savages in loincloths created the perfect autonomous fuel. It is like comparing a modern gadget that dies in the cold in an hour to an iron sledgehammer that works anytime and anywhere. Absolute superiority of primitive engineering over corporate pretension. Eat a piece and you can chase a bison until sunset. Product 6. Your fragrant baking relies on the strong alcoholism of microbes. Everyone loves that delicate sweet scent from tiny glass bottles. But let us be honest with ourselves. A true natural extract is created by prolonged steeping of pods in the strongest spirit. The proof of this dark liquid confidently stays at 35%. Essentially, you are adding elite liquor to your cupcakes. Bacteria, mold, and other scum simply cannot survive in such an alcohol bath. They get completely wasted and die. Your great-grandchildren will be able to bake a pie using the bottle you took off the shelf today. It is like a great Gatsby party that never ends. Only instead of people, aromatic molecules are swimming there. We are so afraid of chemicals that we gladly pour pure ethanol into our dough, calling it haute cuisine. Your oven is just an elite drunk tank for desserts. Cheers to the health of your chocolate chip cookies. Product 7. Indian melted gold ignores the laws of biological decay. The familiar yellow block from the supermarket treacherously goes sour and gets covered with an unpleasant coating if you just forget it on the table. Of course, the manufacturer took care of you. Yeah, right. The ancient Hindus turned out to be much more cunning. They took ordinary butter and boiled all the excess water out of it for a long, agonizing time, simultaneously removing the milk proteins. And proteins are exactly the favorite dining room for microbes. The result was ghee, an absolutely pure fat. In traditional Ayurveda, there is a concept of an elite aged product that is over 100 years old. It is passed down through generations and used as a powerful medicine for all diseases. We are used to throwing away supplies at the first signs of aging, but somewhere in the East, century-old fat is valued higher than gold bars. It is like meeting an immortal Highlander who only gets wiser and stronger with every century. Cleansing by fire works real miracles with triglycerides. Your sandwich could survive the fall of an empire. Product 8. The expiration date on clear liquid is a tax on your paranoia. You stand in front of the shelf and carefully look for the bottle with the freshest bottling date. Did you really believe in this? The numbers on the label have absolutely nothing to do with the moisture itself. They limit the lifespan of the cheap plastic container. After 1 or 2 years, this petroleum packaging quietly begins to release toxic chemicals straight into your drink. The liquid itself, however, if poured into steel or thick glass, can be stored forever without losing a single atom of its essence. Dinosaurs drank the exact same water that now flows from your tap. This is a grand deception on a planetary scale. They sell you a slowly decomposing piece of polymer, and you think you have provided yourself with alpine freshness. It is like buying a diamond and worrying that its cardboard box will soon get crumpled. Drink boldly from a glass tumbler while the plastic industry laughs at your fears. Can you feel the subtle aroma of polyethylene terephthalate on your tongue? Product 9. The sweet sand in your sugar bowl is a ruthless biological desert. It seems like an ideal breeding ground as we gain weight from it at the speed of light. In reality, things are much worse. For microscopic organisms, this is a ticket to the underworld. To reproduce, they desperately need moisture, and these white crystals have such powerful osmotic pressure that they act like black holes. They instantly suck the cellular fluid out of any microbe that dares to land on them. Invisible enemies shrink and disappear. We pour this threat into our morning tea and enjoy the taste. Imagine the harsh planet Arrakis from Dune, where there is not a drop of water, and sandstorms grind everything to powder, except this happens right in your kitchen on a miniature scale. What gives us endorphins and extra folds on our waistline acts as an insurmountable wall of total genocide for bacteria. The sweet life turns out to be a very harsh thing for uninvited guests. Product 10. Sour salad dressing is organic matter that rotted a long time ago. Are you afraid this clear liquid will go bad in the cupboard? That is a blatant lie. It already did that for you. The word itself comes to us from French winemakers and literally means sour wine. Hard-working specific bacteria have already devoured everything tasty in there and processed the alcohol into aggressive caustic acid. This is the final stage of the product's evolution. It physically has nowhere else to spoil. It has reached the absolute bottom of culinary decomposition. Trying to spoil vinegar is like trying to scare a zombie that can already barely walk. You pour the result of someone else's digestive activity over your fresh cucumbers and consider it the pinnacle of gastronomy. We turned the process of controlled rotting into a profitable business. The irony is that we squeamishly turn our noses up at a slightly darkened banana, but delightedly drink a caustic liquid that eats away the rust on car bolts. Good luck explaining this paradox to your inner aesthete. Product 11. Dry bean stashes from the last century are still waiting for your appetite. Digging in old basements, people sometimes find dense sacks of beans prepared even before the start of the First World War. Surprise! You can safely eat them for dinner. Of course, you will have to spend not a measly 2 hours boiling them, but a full 12 to break through this stone shell. But the structure of the life-saving protein and carbohydrates remains completely unharmed. These little oval time capsules preserved themselves. While empires collapsed, borders were redrawn, and humanity invented the internet, these beans just slept. It is like a cryogenic chamber from sci-fi movies, where astronauts sleep for hundreds of years before landing on a new planet. Only the astronaut is an ingredient for a Mexican burrito. Music changes, fashion passes, but the basic needs for survival remain unchanged. Get a huge pot ready and stock up on patience. Let us stop for a second. What? Are you nervously scratching yourself already? Do you want to go to the kitchen and re-examine all the labels on the jars with the suspicion of a hardened paranoiac? Wait, do not run for the sedatives. We have only just begun our dive into this rabbit hole of absurdity. Take a deep breath. Product 12. Mold on elite syrup is not a reason for hysteria, but merely a minor inconvenience. True, 100% maple nectar is eternal. Yes, sometimes, if it stands forgotten for 20 years, a fluffy furry film can form on its surface. A normal person would scream and throw the bottle out the window, but according to official instructions, it is enough to simply scoop off this green hat with a spoon and thoroughly boil the remaining liquid. That is it. It becomes absolutely sterile again. It is like finding a cobweb inside your Ferrari, brushing it off with a rag, and driving on at the speed of light. The sugar density is so high that the fungus simply cannot penetrate deeply. This Canadian juice costs as much as an airplane wing, so have the courage to finish it to the last drop. The art of survival requires strong nerves and a big spoon. Product 13. The brown powder in a jar can survive a nuclear winter. Thanks to the magic of lyophilization, which corporations call vacuum freeze drying, absolutely all the moisture has been removed from this product down to the last pathetic molecule. Do you think these are just loud words? Crazy collectors and professional survivalists still brew drinks with undisguised pleasure from army rations of the 1950s. And they do this without the slightest problem. We turn our noses up if the barista at the coffee shop pours inadequately warm milk, but tough guys drink a substance older than their parents. This powder is like the Terminator with all its organic skin ripped off, leaving only the indestructible metallic skeleton of caffeine. Time holds no power over it. It will wait for its boiling water forever, even if nothing but a radiation-scorched desert remains around it. Your morning ritual turned out to be the most resilient element of human civilization. Product 14. Compressed bouillon bricks are the philosopher's stone of bachelors. Let us take this gastronomic Lego set apart. Essentially, it is just an aggressive mixture of a huge amount of salt, extremely potent monosodium glutamate, and completely dehydrated, dried spices. Protect these golden squares from accidental moisture, and they are guaranteed to outlive you and your grandchildren. A century from now, they will still reliably produce a rich, albeit slightly less aromatic soup. There's nothing in them that could spoil. It is pure laboratory chemistry packed in foil. We throw this into water and truly believe we are cooking a cozy homemade meal. Imagine a building block that someone painted yellow and called food. That is exactly what this is. We eat the periodic table of elements, compressed under enormous pressure, and praise the taste. True alchemy works exactly like this, turning a penny powder into a golden illusion of fullness. Product 15. Deep fermentation creates an impenetrable armor around the paste. In traditional Japanese families, there are dark barrels of miso that are reverently passed down from generation to generation. It is customary to be proud of them. A massive amount of salt combined with highly complex fermentation processes makes this mass biologically invulnerable. It is not just food. It is a real living shield. We order cheap rolls and shake with fear if they sat on the table for an extra hour, while the descendants of samurai eat soy mud that has been aged for a century. It resembles an ancient katana sword that only cuts enemies more sharply with time. Bacteria look at this barrel and bypass it in horror, realizing that instant annihilation awaits them there. What seems like a stinking sludge to us is actually a triumph of microbiological supremacy. The Japanese hacked the digestive system a long time ago. Product 16. The thick black elixir from Modena gets more expensive with every passing century. While your sneakers turn into dust, this traditional balsamic only gathers its strength. It is poured into special wooden barrels and left to languish in silence for 12 to 25 long years before even being put up for sale. No deception, just physics. The water slowly evaporates through the pores of the wood, making the liquid thicker, sweeter, and obscenely more expensive. It is physically impossible for it to spoil due to its extreme acidity. This is an investment portfolio that you can pour onto a piece of cheese. While financiers tear their hair out over inflation, Italians simply hide barrels in the attic. Imagine if your bank account consisted of grapes and old wood, and it brought in fabulous dividends. We got scammed for insane amounts of money for a thick black puddle that is older than some countries. A drop of this luxury will make your wallet cry. Product 17. Solidified beef tallow is an ancient analog to a vacuum sealer. Before humming white boxes appeared in kitchens, people solved the storage problem quite radically. They took chunks of meat, tossed them into wooden barrels, and filled them to the brim with melted lard. As it cooled, this mass turned into an impenetrable white monolith, tightly blocking any access to oxygen. By itself, pure animal fat in a cool cellar remains edible for entire decades. It is a harsh, brutal method that tolerates no sentimentality. Today we drag home rolls of plastic film and pump out the air with special machines playing high technologists. But our ancestors simply melted fat and poured it over their problems. It is akin to how the mafia pours cement into the shoes of their competitors before throwing them into the river. Only here the cement is edible, and the victim is your future dinner. Grunting modeling clay saved entire cities from starvation. Product 18. A strong pirate proof is incapable of aging inside a glass prison. Whiskey, rum, or classic vodka whose strength confidently crosses the 40% mark represent an eternal, ageless liquid. Were you looking for an expiration date? There will not be one. Divers have repeatedly brought up barnacle-covered bottles from sunken ships of the 19th century, and experts gladly drank these historical finds, recognizing the beverage as absolutely safe and amazing in taste. This alcohol is static. No new flora can breed inside it. We build huge cellars and tell fairy tales about aging. But as soon as the liquid hits the glass, the process stops forever. It is like a vampire locked in a crypt. It will not age a single day until you pop the cork. What methodically destroys the human liver serves as the perfect means of immortality for the drink itself. Drown your sorrows in a liquid that survived the crash of empires. Product 19. Yellow tubes from the 90s are still ready for boiling water. Commercial pasta, stamped out in huge factories, is dried to an absolutely stone-like state. Just leave it alone. If you can reliably protect a cardboard box of spaghetti from ravenous pantry moths, chemically, this product will be completely identical to fresh pasta, even half a century later. There is no water, and without it, destructive processes simply do not start. We load up full shopping carts with these packages in hopes of a well-fed future. Imagine an Egyptian mummy wrapped not in bandages, but in cellophane, and tossed onto the top shelf of a kitchen cabinet. It lies there and waits for its moment. You can leave this inheritance to your grandchildren, and they will cook an excellent dinner in honor of your anniversary. Durum wheat proved to be tougher than human intentions to eat healthy. The main thing is not to break your jaw if you decide to gnaw on them raw. Product 20. The dark, salty essence of Asian cuisine is a concentrated liquid weapon. Authentic soy sauce, created through prolonged natural fermentation, is a wild cocktail of a lethal dose of salt and aggressive amino acids. Did you think it was just a tasty additive? It is so hostile to any pathogenic flora that in a tightly closed glass bottle, it will be stored literally forever. This is not a seasoning. It is scorched earth for microbes. We generously dip our fish into it, enjoying the complex flavor, completely unaware that we are consuming an ideal antiseptic. If the alien from the famous movie cut itself in the kitchen, this very sauce would pour out instead of acid. It dissolves the very idea of spoiling. Corporations draw expiration dates on labels just for fun and to boost sales. Not a single self-respecting bacterium will poke its nose into this salty hell of its own free will. Plunging a roll into this liquid is a sterilization ritual before lunch. Product 21. The white fizzy powder in the familiar box ignores the laws of decay. The chemical compound called sodium bicarbonate is practically impossible to destroy with time. Shall we argue with chemistry? Yes, 50 long years from now, this soda might hiss a little more lazily in your dough due to a slow reaction with moisture from the surrounding air, but it will forever remain an absolutely safe chemical reagent and your faithful remedy for sudden heartburn. It is the silent guardian of your kitchen. We take this cardboard box off the shelf once in our lives and pass it down as an inheritance along with the apartment, because using it up completely is practically impossible. It is like a philosopher's stone that sits in the fridge and absorbs bad odors. While scientists struggle over an elixir of youth, this white powder simply exists outside of time and space. Your heartburn will pass, empires will fall, but the yellow and red box will remain, except its eternal presence on the top shelf. Product 22. Spicy peppercorns from sunken ships are still capable of making you sneeze. While ordinary ground spices lose their potency and turn into dull dust in just 1 year, whole black spheres play by different rules. Do you not believe archaeologists? At the bottom of the ocean, in the holds of long-sunken Portuguese galleons from the 1600s, divers found stashes of this miracle. These tiny armored cores preserved all their volatile essential oils inside, and prove to be absolutely suitable for cooking. Their shell works like a perfect natural safe. We waste money on beautiful glass grinders, not realizing we are holding real-time capsules. It is like pirates hiding gold in chests, only instead of shiny coins, there is spicy organic matter inside. Crush one such peppercorn, and you will smell the aroma that sailors breathed 4 centuries ago. Your steak deserves a seasoning with such a rich history of shipwrecks. All right, exhale. I can see your eye twitching from the realization of how much money you flushed down the toilet, throwing away absolutely perfectly good supplies because of numbers on plastic. Congratulations, your nerves are stronger than the ship biscuits from the 4th point. But do not relax, we continue to shatter your stereotypes. Product 23. The fish stinking liquid is an ancient legacy of invincible empires. Tough Roman legionnaires during exhausting campaigns fed on a strange substance called garum. It was a sauce made from fish intestines, left to ferment under the scorching sun for long, hot months. Sounds like a recipe for a biological terror attack, does it not? But the modern Thai equivalent is produced using the exact same primitive principle. The killer combination of crystal salt and aggressive digestive enzymes makes this extract practically immortal. What starts as vile rotting ends with the creation of a perfect preservative. It is like the Frankenstein of the culinary world. We stitched pieces of fish together, shocked them with salt, and created an eternal monster. Rome fell, but their foul-smelling seasoning conquered the world's restaurants. Product 24. The yellow burning powder is a sleeping chemical weapon on your shelf. Dry mustard looks harmless, but a devious mechanism is hidden inside it. Do not wake a sleeping dog. It contains special enzymes that are in suspended animation until you add a drop of water. As soon as contact occurs, a violent reaction triggers the release of allyl isothiocyanate. Yes, that same caustic compound that ruthlessly burns our tongues and clears our noses all the way to our brains. In its dry, untouched form, this powder is an indestructible antiseptic. We use it to smear on a sausage, while bacteria see it as acid rain. It is like a minefield. Until you step on the detonator, everything is quiet and peaceful. But once you add moisture, a flavor explosion occurs. You are storing a miniature laboratory for the production of chemical warfare agents in your cabinet and calling it a zesty condiment. Your immune system gives a standing ovation to this yellow powder. Product 25. Compressed leaves from China are a pyramid scheme you can brew. While ordinary green tea rapidly ages, loses its aroma, and turns into hay in just 1 year, this dark fermented monster plays the long game. An amazing transformation. With each passing decade, Pure only improves its mystical properties. 50-year-old dusty cakes of these tea leaves are absolutely safe for consumption and are sold at auctions for tens of thousands of dollars. This is not a drink. It is a bank deposit in the form of dried vegetation. While we nervously check the dates on our tea bags, cunning collectors are getting rich off old leaves. Imagine the picture. Dorian Gray aging in his portrait while his tea gets younger and tastier. Dried bushes have turned into an elite status symbol for rich people with nowhere to put their money. Your morning Lipton is crying with envy in the trash can. Product 26. Dried seagrass absorbs time like a sponge. In Japan, chefs of premium establishments artificially age tough kombu kelp in darkrooms for 10 or 15 years. And they do this not out of laziness at all. They're waiting for a powerful amplification of the deep flavor called umami. This dry seaweed, thoroughly soaked in ocean salt and iodine, can be stored forever without losing its properties. We squeamishly toss aside the algae on the beach, while Asian gourmets turn it into a cult of longevity. It resembles the maturation process of expensive cheese, only instead of alpine cows, the Pacific Ocean is doing the work here. The leaves dry out to the state of green plastic, preserving the very essence of the sea inside themselves. What looks to us like garbage stuck to the bottom of a boat is the holy grail for elite gastronomy. Try chewing on old electrical tape. Maybe you will discover a new flavor profile too. Product 27. The finest carbohydrate dust is completely invisible to microscopic predators. This squeaky cornstarch, which you use to thicken your watery soup, is of absolutely no interest to bacteria. It is all about brutal physics. There's a complete total absence of water and nutritious proteins. For microbes, this is a bare, icy wasteland. If you keep this product in a moisture-free place, it will perfectly fulfill its task and create the ideal sauce, even in the year 2126. This powder costs mere pennies, yet possesses the superpower of immortality. It is like an invisible man walking through a crowd of hungry zombies simply because he has not a single drop of blood in him. Starch ignores evolution. It simply waits for you to pour too much water into the gravy again. Your culinary failure will be saved by a substance that will outlive all of us combined. The main thing is not to sneeze near an open packet. Product 28. White milk powder can outlive your grandchildren if you deprive it of the tastiest part. Regular powdered milk spoils rather quickly and starts to smell disgustingly due to the banal oxidation of milk fats. But there is one clever trick. If you buy the completely non-fat version and tightly seal it in a shiny mylar bag along with a chemical oxygen absorber, the magic will work. Its shelf life will easily exceed 25 years. We maniacally look for fat content on the label, not realizing that it is the main traitor in the long run. It is like removing the engine from a car so it will never break down. Yes, it will not drive, but it will be preserved perfectly. You pump out the air, remove the fat, and get an eternal calcium simulator. In a post-apocalyptic future, this bag will become the new hard currency. Enjoy your white watery drink with the taste of eternity and hopelessness. Product 29. Tin cans with meat hide absolute emptiness inside. Boring official papers claim that the shelf life of canned food does not exceed a pitiful 2 or 3 years. Just more paper dust. Relentless scientists, for the sake of an experiment, opened thick cans of fatty corned beef that had lain in the flooded holds of forgotten ships for over 40 years. Industrial sterilization and sealing create an absolute microbial vacuum inside the tin. The meat inside turned out to be pristinely sterile. We devoutly believe the stamps on the bottom of the can and obediently throw out our stew, sponsoring the corporations. It resembles a space capsule flying in deep space. Everything inside has frozen, time has stopped, the elements rage outside, while a piece of pork simply sleeps. If no air gets in, this can will be edible even after the sun burns out. Open your stashes and throw a feast to spite the marketers. Your stomach will not even notice the difference. Product 30. The black sticky mud of sugar production will suffocate any life form. Molasses, or the familiar dark treacle, is merely a cheap byproduct of sugarcane processing, but underestimating it is a big mistake. This substance is so dense, viscous, and heavy that it has an extremely low water activity index. Bacteria need freedom of movement, and molasses works like a giant tar pit trap for mammoths. Any microscopic life that risks poking its nose in there will be instantly immobilized and suffocated. We pour this black sludge into gingerbread, giving it an unmistakable caramel flavor. Imagine a swamp of liquid asphalt that swallows everything alive. That is exactly what happens inside your jar on the shelf. What seems like a sweet syrup is actually a trap for careless microorganisms. This thick mass will teach you to appreciate the fluidity of existence. Product 31. Old dry seeds from the bottom of a swamp still remember how to create life. Archaeologists, poking around in dry peat in China, found tiny lotus seeds that had lain there in complete darkness for over 1,000 years. And these are not just fossils for a pretty display case. Not only could they be ground into nutritious flour and eaten, but when carefully planted in fertile soil, they sprouted without any problems and produced green shoots. We are forced to fill our baskets with bright little packets that die after the very first frost at the country house. It is like a flash drive with valuable information found in the ruins of an ancient civilization, plugged into a computer, and it perfectly loaded the old operating system. plants invented data backups a long time ago, while we take pride in cloud storage. Plant a 1,000-year-old flower in your garden and feel like the Lord of Time. Product 32. Zombie vegetables return to life at the snap of your fingers. Through the brutal process of sublimation, 98% of life-giving moisture is ruthlessly pumped out of green peas or sweet carrots, freezing them in a deep vacuum. At the same time, it looks creepy but works flawlessly. This technological torture hits the total pause button on all destructive rotting enzymes. In an airtight can, such shriveled pieces can easily be stored for over 30 years without losing any of their original vitamins. Every day we run to the market for fresh salads, when we could just add boiling water to colored styrofoam. It is as if we learned to dry people out, stack them in a closet, and rehydrate them on weekends for family dinner. High technology has turned organic matter into plastic with a reverse resurrection function. Watch as a dead carrot regains its meaning of existence once again. Product 33. Thick confectionery liquid will safely survive any end of the world. Food-grade glycerin, which hides behind the boring number A422, is massively added to fluffy pastries to retain moisture. It is a chemical monolith. At its core, it is a polyhydric sugar alcohol, and this viscous substance is absolutely toxic to any bacteria, yeast, and mold fungi. They cannot digest it and disappear in agony. We joyfully chew soft cupcakes from the store, unaware that they are soaked in a substance that suppresses all life on a micro level. Imagine a pool with sweet syrup that is actually a pool of acid for your enemies. You are eating industrial chemistry that laughs at the laws of biological entropy. This additive will be lying in the ruins of supermarkets when nothing but dust remains of humanity. Good luck to your stomach dealing with this invulnerable essence. That is it. The scenery has collapsed, the illusion is shattered to pieces. We have been led by the nose for decades, forced to pay for a grandiose spectacle of rot and imaginary freshness. We obediently bring our money to the altar of corporate fear, throwing away eternal supplies into the trash simply because the ink on the plastic ordered us to. You have just learned the truth about a world where salt ages according to documents, and mold on syrup costs more than your sneakers. Stop being a naive victim of marketing. The system is built on your panic, so start playing by your own rules. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you still have even a little bit of critical thinking left to absorb the hard truth. And do me a favor. Go down to the comments right now and type your personal 34th product. Show these corporate storytellers that we can no longer be fooled. The curtain is closing. Go check your pantries.